Hello, hello, and welcome to our workshop, our masterclass today on water safety and dogs. I'm Yo Armendariz, and I'm here from Huntington Beach, California, where it is already sunny outside, and dogs and pet parents are really trying hard to get to the beach as fast and as hard as well as possible. And I've got Corey here in the back. I'm going to pull her up on stage. Hey,
Hi,
Corey.
how are
So,
you?
Corey's good, good, good. I'm excited about this topic. And before we dive into the topic, how is the weather in Toledo, Ohio?
So, interestingly enough, we are in the middle of an excessive heat wave. We are above 95 Monday through Friday, no, Saturday. I think Sunday we start dipping back down into the 80s. It was 98 degrees on Monday. Tomorrow and Thursday, it's kind of like that mix where it gets so hot that you end up getting some kind of crazy weather. So we've got some thunderstorms in the works for Wednesday, Thursday. However, it's right now when it's not raining, it's sunny and perfect swimming weather. Perfect to get in the pool.
Good. And we'll go over if your dogs can swim or not in just a minute. But if you are watching live and you're seeing the wherever it's popping up, I think it's on YouTube right now, you can ask questions. If you go in the comments, you can literally ask questions and they'll pop up on our screen and we can answer you live. If you're watching the recording, awesome. Watch the recording. Let us know how we did. And you're welcome to share this. This is not private, so it's totally public. To share it with anybody that would be interested in understanding what to do, how to do it, why it's important to get your dog, if you're really wanting to get into anything that's got to do with water sports, how to implement things nice and slow and make sure they have a positive experience. All right, so let me go ahead and pop our, there you go. Can you see that okay?
I see it.
Perfect. All right, dogs and water safety in 2024. This is the 2024 edition, really talking about young puppies, but also older dogs that if you have just rescued a dog, you're fostering a dog, and you envision and part of your dream when you decided to get a dog that you really want to do anything to do with water sports, or if you live here like in Huntington Beach, you can't avoid the beach. If you live near the beach and you want your dog to even walk near the water, the sounds of the waves crashing can be something scary for some dogs. So for that reason, you're going to want to make sure you watch this masterclass and take some notes. So grab a pen and paper. We've got a really good masterclass for you. The entire masterclass should take exactly an hour. Let's shoot for getting it done in an hour. How's that, Corey?
That's perfect.
All right, a little bit about me. So I am from Huntington Beach, California. This is where I went to school, also where I raised my kids. So they also went over to Edison. I went to Marina. So right here, you're local. I never learned how to surf, but I was actually a lifeguard and swam my entire career. So my entire life when I was younger. And ended up being a lifeguard as one of my first jobs. That being said, I knew that I wanted my dogs to swim. So it's something that I did really early on. And you can tell I'm choking. So go ahead, Corey.
Corey, like we said, I'm currently live in Toledo, Ohio, but I'm actually from Michigan. And of course, Michigan is surrounded by all of those Great Lakes. So as a kid, I did spend a lot of time on the Great Lakes. However, I had a particularly bad experience out on the water when I was young and have not really ever. I mean, I'd like to go swimming in like the pool and stuff like that. And I like to dip my toes in the beach if we go to, the ocean, we go to the coast. But when it comes to actually like swimming in open water, I'm very uncomfortable with it. But it's something that I think is, regardless of your comfort level, it's something that's from a safety standpoint, it's really important to understand the aspects and how to stay safe, whether you enjoy it or not necessarily.
Absolutely. And you've got young kids. So like water safety is nothing new to you. You've got young kids. And I think you just got a pool in your backyard, right?
Yeah, we just put a pool in this spring. So my kids are pretty good swimmers. They did swim lessons when they were like when they were babies, we would take them to a like the YMCA type facility to do swim lessons. I was more panicked about my dogs. So I bought life jackets back in April, and we've been working on desensitizing and getting used to wearing our life jackets for the last couple of months, to kind of prepare for when the dogs will have more access to the pool area.
Nice. So that's really good. If you have a pool in your backyard and you're wondering how do you go about implementing some water safety tips or what to do to manage so your dogs don't fall in, definitely listen, ask questions as they come up, and we'll be able to see those comments a little bit later. Today's topics, we're going to talk about some dogs on boats, because over here we are right by the harbor. A lot of pet parents bring their dogs onto a boat. A lot of times I think 90% of the time, these dogs are not wearing life vests. So we're going to go into really talking about why, the importance of it, and we're going to give you a couple scary stories. So hopefully after today's masterclass, you decide to get a life jacket for your dog, even if they know how to swim. We'll go into benefits of swimming, and I do have a little video on how to teach your dog to swim, or at least get your dog at the beginning stages of swimming. We've got some water sports, risks and hazards, to teaching a positive vibe, learning how to swim. And then, I don't know if you guys saw, but last weekend we did our kayaking or paddleboarding with your dog workshop, and that was a massive success. And I do have some videos from that.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So let's go into our first. I wanted to ask you, Corey. So when it comes to like the development stages of a puppy, and we're talking specifically puppy, but we go into adolescents and senior dogs, why is it important to understand these developmental stages if you dream about eventually one day having a dog that does any kind of water sports?
Well, it's kind of a twofold factor when we're looking at stages of development. We're not just looking at their physical development, how big they are, how capable they are, like physically capable they are of swimming, but we're also looking at kind of emotional growth as well, because they may or may not line up. A dog may be physically capable of swimming, but not ready, to get in open water, depending on the stage that they're at. So that 4 to 12 week socialization period, where it's very critical to expose them to new experiences. Your puppy is probably coming home around 8 to 10 weeks old, right in that critical stage. So that's an excellent time to get started in exposing them to water, in a very careful way. The younger your puppy is, the more careful you need to be. Because also within this, they start growing out of this phase, they grow into a fear impact phase, where negative experiences make a much longer lasting impact on how they view that experience. So super positive experiences, super early. As simple as a wet towel or washcloth on the floor that they can put their feet on and just get used to the feel of the water on their feet, or maybe on their belly or on their face, before we're actually having them put their feet in the water itself. And then as they age, you can continue those positive experiences, and get them really well prepared up to adolescence, where they've got tons of energy, and hopefully by now they've had really great experiences, and they're ready to get into the water and actually swim, to really burn off that excessive adolescent energy that they're bound to develop at that 6 to 12 month mark.
I like that, and I agree. We like to start during the socialization stage, before they hit that 12 or 14 week mark. And there's lots of different ways, and we're going to go over some options. Here's what we do here at the school program with young dogs. So Corey, you had mentioned the wash rag. I also do like the cookie sheets, and put a little bit of water on the bottom of a cookie sheet.
Okay.
Wet grass is another one. Have you ever had a dog that will not go potty because the grass is wet?
Touches their belly and they don't like it.
Exactly. So there's lots of different ways. And if you're watching this and you can think of like the ways that you exposed your dog when they were younger to things that are wet, those beginning stages of are critical, like Corey had mentioned, but they're also just layers and layers of things that you get to do to help your dog get to the final goal of whatever you dream about having your dog do. And like boats and things like that, there's so many slippery surfaces too. So you combine the water with the flooring later on.
Yeah, and the movement of the boat is so different than being on land. That's just, like you said, a lot of layers to that that one activity alone.
Yeah. Oh, Casey said baths. Yep. Here we have a bathtub that we do let the dogs go into the tub first. But those are all great examples of just the intro levels of getting your dog prepared for any kind of water sport. So when should you start? And this is a question that we actually get asked a lot. I think Corey, you already pretty much answered that question. Ideally, we like to start with anything to do with water sports early on in that socialization stage. But we do keep in mind, like if the dog is ready, if they're showing signs that they're ready. So it's not the first thing we do, but it's not the, like, we don't wait till the dog is out of that stage. We like to give them, like Corey said, layers of things to do, but we do make sure that the dog is receptive and that they're having a really good experience. So if you get a dog and they're after, like maybe they're 6 months old, it's important to start from the very beginning and not assume that they got those repetitions. How many times, Corey, have we seen a dog that doesn't have any of those kind of experiences and they're petrified of, I mean, we're talking about water here, but like those beginning things that a lot of the young puppies that we do see in training are able to get.
I mean, it happens all the time, you know, in those things go so fast. You get a new puppy home and it can feel really overwhelming, and it can feel like there's just a million things that you need them to know. And maybe swimming is not very high on your priority list, depending on, you know, where you are, or even if if swimming in water sports and things like that are a part of your lifestyle. It may not be something you even think about at first. And then all of a sudden now it's maybe not too late necessarily, but it gets a little harder once they're less open to those new experiences, like they are in that socialization phase. They kind of get a little less receptive, or it just takes a little longer. It can be a little bit more difficult to get them to that point, whereas it's a little easier with a younger puppy.
Yeah. This picture right here is one of our clients, Barbie, and her dog, Larry, who is coming over today, when he was a puppy, and we did a pool lesson, and most of the lesson is just right there on the dock, you know, right on the, you know, pool deck right there. It's not actually going into the water, but notice that he does have a life vest on. All right. So assessing your puppy's comfort level to water. So just to understand, what signs is your dog giving you that says, yes, let's keep moving forward? Or what are the signs that says, hey, we need to take a little break? So if we assess these comfortability of water or anything to do with water sports, I'm not talking about the sounds and everything. I'm specifically talking about water. Whether it's sprinklers or pool or bath or the beach, there's lots of little layers, and we want to take a look at what it is that we want our dog to be exposed to and all the possibilities of things that can go wrong. So eagerness to approach the water tells me that the puppy is comfortable with the setting. So when I have a young puppy and I'm exposing them to the beach, I know that the water is probably the least of my worries, but the sound of the waves crashing is the one that normally triggers the dog to, you know, show me that, hey, they're not quite comfortable. The way that the waves move towards the sand, and, you know, when it comes, you know, for a young puppy at the ground level, it looks like this big, huge thing coming towards them. So just be mindful of what you're exposing them to, and don't be discouraged, or don't get upset when your dog is not even touching the water, because it may not have anything to do with the water. Curious behaviors, so such as sniffing or pawing at the water. So walking towards the water, curious by if you can let your dog lead and they go towards the water, that's a good sign. try not to lift or pick your dog up and put them in water because they don't have time to process that information. And we want them to have a good experience. We want them to determine, you know what, this is safe. They're really just trying to figure out if they're safe or not, right? Calm and relaxed body language. So you're looking at that loose body language. If you look at that picture on the left, this dog's ears are flapping. You could definitely tell he's happy. And honestly, if that was my dog, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but if that was my dog on the left and he never touched the water, I would still say that was a positive experience. Wouldn't you say, at the beach?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
being in the presence of the water, there's definitely a smell associated with the water. Even if we're not talking, outside of going into the water itself, there's a lot of aspects that are very different for a puppy. That if they're having that much fun on the beach with the sand being a new texture, the sounds, the smells, the sights, the activity, that's a great day.
The second picture of the sprinklers, like, would you get upset if your dog went over to the sprinkler, picked it up, let it, like it got mud all over the place? No, not at all.
No. Me, no. My husband, maybe, but me, no.
Yeah. So when you're giving your dog these, these experiences, you remember to really know rules, make sure that you do the best you can to just keep the sessions short, give them as much time as they need to process, use what you need to make sure that they have a really good experience. And if we look at what your dog's body language of not being comfortable, we would say like hesitation or refusal. So walking away, obviously hiding, any kind of whining, barking, even pulling on leash to go away from the water, stiff body language, stiff tail, all of those signs tells me that this dog is just not ready. And again, we're saying water, but we're saying whatever environment where the water is. So if you've got this massive pool in your backyard, or you've got the ocean, or sprinklers in your backyard and your dog's barking at them, it doesn't necessarily mean the water, but it means the environment that has the water in it. All right, so let's move on to teaching a positive vibe with water activities. Here's lots of different ideas. And let's see, let me play this video. So here we do like kiddie pools, we do ball pits, we do field trips to where we're just holding a young puppy that's not vaccinated. I'll hold them and let them see water, because even looking at water looks very strange to some dogs. Your dogs, Corey, might look at the pool and they might look down and go, oh my God, what is this big blue thing,
Yeah. Yep. They're curious. We don't have a deck around the pool. It is an above ground pool. We're putting in the deck in the next couple of weeks. So I haven't really had them do much with the big pool yet, because it's really just the ladder into the pool. There's not a lot of options to slowly, enter or anything like that. But they're curious about it. They want to know what we're doing inside of it. They'll kind of take a few steps back and like stand up a little bit and like, what are you doing in there? And they're curious so far. So we'll see how the summer progresses.
All right. So here are some ideas for water activities. So teaching a positive vibe with water activities. Here are some things that we've done with these young puppies. So this was a kiddie pool. This is a group of young puppies that were under 8 weeks old. And we did what we call an ACE-free setup. So we put a whole bunch of things out on the deck, and they're all with their litter mate. So sometimes having a pal helps. And there's very, very little water in this pool. I'm talking like very little, but there is some food in here. So we sprinkled the dogs. We used the entire dog's meal to give them some positive experience around things that have to do with water. So kiddie pool, ball pit. This was part of an obstacle course that we created for these puppies to help build confidence. We were doing also a temperament test we did the week before we chose a couple of puppies. In fact, one of these dogs is here right now. He just turned a year old. Now that I think about it, yeah, he's a massive dog. So let's see. Fast forward here. So litter mates, balls. Here is, it looks like Bentley, and there is some water on the floor there. Oh, that's Bandit.
Oh yeah.
Yep, there's some little water. So having his mouth go into the water is another layer of experiences, right? Having his friends. Sometimes dogs will follow. There's Miss Lucy going in after Bandit, right? Different types of pools. So this was one of those blow up pools. Sometimes you saw with the other puppies, we had a plastic pool. Keep changing it up. Another thing is that the sprinklers and the water is on this grass. So this is fake turf, but the grass is wet. So another option for giving experience. This is little Pepper over here trying to get in. Oh gosh, Pepper's almost in. She looks like a skunk there.
Yeah.
So friends, food, a variety of pools, wet grass, flat surfaces that they're comfortable in. Just fast forward this. And when they're comfortable with that, you can always spray when they're not looking, so you can give them that wet experience on the grass. Or if they like it, like Lucy loves the hose. So eventually she goes into, even now, she absolutely loves chasing after the hose. So lot of fun ways to give them experiences around water at the very beginning stages. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered, most of that there. I find with my dogs, they really don't like the hose, but they are comfortable with the kiddie pool. So when we started out Monday, when it was really hot yesterday, or I think we started out on Sunday, Father's Day, I put a kiddie pool with maybe this much water in it. But then yesterday I filled it up a little bit more to kind of gauge how interested they were. But when the hose is on filling the pool, they're nowhere to be seen. But then once it's off, they're much more comfortable and interested.
And how did you know that your dogs were not comfortable? Just because they avoided it, or were they showing others? Okay.
Yeah, they avoided it. One would stay up on the patio a good 20 feet away and just watched and waited. As soon as the hose is off, then they approached the pool. The other one will get a little bit closer, but as soon as he could tell the water can reach him from the spray, he's like, nope. And then he leaves. So the spray, not so much, but the pool is okay, especially when our toys are in the pool.
All right. And some other tips about non-pool activities. So you're just like the beach or open water, bodies of water, make sure that your dog can approach without waves. So if you can go at early mornings or times where your dogs can get those experiences in without feeling like they're the noise and the loud sounds of crashing and the sight of waves, it's important to let them just kind of stroll in on their own. And I'm getting this is not going through. Let's see. We'll go backwards and then let's go forward and see if that helps. This is in Tahoe, where the water's just super clear. The dogs can, touch their paws on there. They had a nice deck to let us swim. It was really nice. All right. Let's move on to dogs on boat. And that might sound strange to you, but Corey, everybody here, not everybody, but a lot of people have a boat, and a lot of people have dogs. So it's no wonder that we see a lot of dogs on boats. Here are a couple things that you just want to keep in mind. Life jackets with a handle should not be an option. It is mandatory that if you're going to put your dog on a boat, that you must have them in a life vest, even if they know how to swim, even if you're an amazing driver. And there was a story I told last year when we talked about this, but there was this family with kids that had a dog. It was a golden doodle. And the dog, they were basically docking, and the family reported they were coming into the dock, and the daughter was holding on to the dog when they were looking to dock the boat. And they were going really slow, so less than 10 miles per hour. And they made a turn. And as they turned, The daughter let go of the dog and the dog fell in. And kind of not even fell, but actually jumped, they said. So the dog jumped in. Who knows why? Maybe because they were excited to go in the water, or maybe because they thought they were, getting close to the land. And this was a smaller boat, so it wasn't one of these big, huge yachts. It was where the dog could actually, get to the dock. Well, the kids screamed, they stopped the engine, but it was too late. The dog actually, because the engine was still on, went right underneath the boat. So it was drawn into the prop, and Benji never had a chance. So it's important to understand, like, even though we're doing everything right and it doesn't seem like this could ever happen, it happens quite a bit. So keep that in mind. The reason why life jackets is because, if you just hit a swell, even if you're going on a slower boat, you hit a swell and the dog's, not paying attention, or, of course they're not paying attention. They don't know what's going on. They can easily get ejected out of the boat. Positive exposures while on land. So if you really want your dog to get on a boat with you, then what it looks like, and I've got a video to show you, is everything to do with getting on the boat needs to happen with your dog before you actually get on the boat. That means going on a dock, going on the little bridge. That's scary for a dog.
It really is.
Yeah, because they don't understand why how far is that? Like, they don't have that depth perception as we do.
It's not land on either side. We don't necessarily know what it is or why, but it's a very scary experience at first.
And it moves. So like their feet are, like, everything underneath them is totally moving. So that's really scary because they're not stable and they don't know where it's coming from. And then the slippery surface. Like, the boat is slippery. So just making sure that they get all those repetitions in before you actually leave. And that could take weeks of just getting them over there, let them practice, let them do something fun. Keeping your dog tethered. So what that means is leash them up to you. So just in case, they're leashed either to you. I wouldn't leash them to the boat in case the boat flips over. Just leash them to you. Sunscreen, providing shade and cold, fresh water. Some dogs do get seasick, so it's, good to just go out there and do a very short little stroll first before you, have them on there for a couple hours. Anything else you want to add to that?
I think maybe some people find it strange that we would put sunscreen on our dogs. And in these photos, it's not necessarily as easy to tell. But if you have a dog that's all white, like a Maltese, that bridge of their nose it burns very easily, just like it can for us. So I don't think a lot of people think about including sunscreen, dog safe sunscreen for their pets. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. And their skin too, like Bandit has like the white and like a cow print skin. Casey had a really good point. I'll just pop it up here quick. If you are using the hose, never bring the water towards the dog. Go away from the dog. I'm glad that you pointed that out because I did not say that. Don't scare your dog by putting the water on them. Let it go away, and they normally do chase after the hose. Good point. All right, so here's a quick little video of me exposing the boat dock to Mr. Larry. So you can see here he's a little apprehensive. This was our first repetition, so we already did the life vest. And I'm doing the Hansel and Gretel. You see him backing up, so I'm bringing the treat on the dock, and I'm letting him do what he needs to do to feel comfortable. Isn't he cute?
He's adorable. You can tell he's looking kind of from side to side, like, what is over there? What is down there? He's taking it in.
And after we got down on the dock, then we went over to he had these kayaks over there on the dock, which if your dog's never seen it before, it does look strange. And you can see that it's moving already. So I wasn't going to do this, but the pet parents were like, okay, they really wanted to be able to have him on the boat and on the kayaks and things like that. So he was showing me some positive positive vibes. So I went ahead and shared experiences on the kayak. And you can see that the dock, and you can see all the boats in the background. Just the sight of these massive things that they don't know what they are things that you're going to want your dogs to go through. So here I'm keeping the leash short. He's wanting to go back. And then I decided to go ahead and get down and just give him a different kind of experience. Maybe he wants to just get some love, get some pets. And the sight of the water, the sight of the boats are all really good beginning experiences for a puppy like this. And this is within that 12-week window. So he is under 12 weeks at this time.
Okay.
Very, very cute, huh?
He's adorable. He looks much more comfortable here than in the very beginning of the video.
I think that was the hardest part was going down that little,
the first
very
couple
narrow.
of steps.
Yeah. Now, if you see him, he's massive. He's almost 100 pounds, and he has no problem. He's on the boat all the time, and he flies as well. So he's a pretty lucky dog.
Yeah.
You can see how narrow that is. He now has these going up. Look at that tail, very flowing. And then he wants to go back. And now his mom says that every time he goes down this dock, he always goes to the kayaks.
That's adorable.
But,
he remembers.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. So life vests, not all life vests are made the same. I'm just going to go over really quickly kind of some things to look out for, because I didn't know when I started doing research, and actually Bandon and Bentley got onto Canada Pooch and were photographed for their life vests. And I was like, well, what's the difference between all these different life vests? And there's really a lot of different things. So if you've got a dog that's going to be on a boat versus swimming, you're going to want different kind of life vests. You think about like what they're going to be using it for. So that makes a difference. What the adventures are going to be, whether they're going to have to walk really far with it, or are they going to be sitting around, wearing it. And if they're a really good swimmer. So if they're a really good swimmer, maybe you can wear something a little lighter. If they're not a really good swimmer, maybe you're putting on something that's it's going to give you peace of mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So some life vests, some things to think about are if you're going to be where your dog might possibly be ejected, having a bright color like a bright yellow or orange. If they were to come, fall out of a boat, you want them to be able to be seen by whomever, comes by. So bright colors. Top handle I think it's just mandatory for any one of these life vests. So if you're doing kayaking, boating, even swimming, I like to use the handle on the top, right? Adjustable straps. So Corey, you've got Frenchies. Their bodies are completely different than some of the other dogs. So having adjustable straps, like you see the one on the right versus the one on the left, it's kind of fixed, and all you've got is like one Velcro strap to adjust. The sturdy D-ring. So this is like we talked about attaching or tethering it. Having some place for you to put your leash onto is going to be really important if you're doing kayaking, paddleboarding, surfing, boating, not necessarily just for swimming. If you don't have a D-ring, you can at least keep your dog's harness on and attach your leash to that. Reflective strips, same reason as the bright colors, so your dog can be seen. If you're doing anything at night, make sure you have reflective strips. And then the flotation, the extra flotation. So some of the material on these life vests have different areas where they float. So a dog that's not really a good swimmer, you would have more in the chest and belly area. Dogs like Frenchies that they really should not get their face wet. You'll see on the right-hand side that little extra floaty that goes under the chin helps to keep that head out of the water. So Long story short, do your research.
Yeah, ours have kind of a little flat that sits right out there to kind of buffer that water coming up into their face.
Yeah. And there's so many different kinds. The cool thing is like you can really get one pretty quickly on Amazon. You can get one in a
Yeah.
day. So at
Yeah.
least have a life vest, and then you can always, invest in a nicer one or one that's more suitable once you figure out what they're going to be using it for.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just got some that were inexpensive, easy to get a hold of quickly so that we could start that training and then determine exactly what we want long term.
And putting on a life vest isn't as it's not something you want to just do right away. So here I'm exposing Larry to the sight of it. I'm using something that he absolutely loves, which is food. So first I do is, if I go back a little bit, let me go back here at the very beginning. I'm just giving him treats for just me holding it in my hand. If he was scared at this point, I'd put it on the floor and let him go ahead and observe it and take a look at it. From here, I hold it in my hand, and from my hand, I'm able to put it on him, not actually clasping anything quite yet. When I'm ready to clasp, I'm going to put the food on the floor, kind of keep him busy while I go ahead and get those straps on. So you can see Larry can care less what I do to him.
We're happy.
Yeah. So the first step is making sure your dog's not afraid of the life vest. And then it's putting it on him. And then after he has it on, it's them wearing it, right? Actually wearing it before you actually have them use it for whatever water sport you're having them use it for. So you want to do this as part of your training. You want to check this off 2 or 3 times before you actually assume that they're okay with it. So I'm doing a few training exercises here. We're doing nose target. He's wearing it. If I was going to be using it, like when we do paddleboarding and kayaking, we actually hold the handle and pretend to pick it up too. So we do some repetitions like that. But take the time to let your dog go through this process nice and slow. All right, we got a fun fact. Go ahead, Corey.
Well, there are some dogs that are naturally excellent swimmers, dogs that have been purposefully bred for water, to be in the water, whether that it's for a recreation or whether it's for an actual supportive purpose. So like the Portuguese water dog, they were originally bred to help fishermen. They actually helped to get in the water and herd fish towards the fisherman's net so that they could have a nice haul to take to market. Your Labrador retrievers, most types of retriever, Chesapeake Bay Retriever. I think a lot of people don't realize that poodles are actually originally bred to be water dogs as well for game retrieval. And then our Newfies. A lot of these dogs are also going to have webbed feet to help with swimming, and oils in their skin and coat to help protect them against that constant state of getting wet and drying and getting wet and drying out and things like that. But Newfoundlands also waterfront protectors and used for water rescue as they need to. So one thing to know, though, to think about, even though these dogs were bred to be in the water and they are naturally good swimmers, doesn't mean that they A, enjoy it, and B, we can't assume that they just know how. They still are going to need that exposure, and just like every other dog.
That's a good point. Just because they are this breed, don't assume that they know how to swim. And you know what? A lot of people think that that's a misconception. They really think that that's that's true. Sometimes that's the reason why they get these dogs. Certain breeds.
Yes, I've had many a client say, "Have you ever seen a lab not like getting in the water?" I'm like, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very much.
Well,
so.
any dog that has never had the experience is gonna might feel like it's not something that they know or want to go do. Right. Let's see. The coat texture of the breed can be an indicator too. If the coat doesn't absorb water, it's possible that they have a propensity of enjoying water. Okay, it's hard for me to read on this little screen. Very true. Very true. All right. Benefits of swimming. So now we're talking about real swimming. Swimming in a pool, swimming at the beach. That's Mr. Bandit swimming. He's doing his little swim lesson there.
He's a good swimmer.
Yeah, he's a pretty good swimmer. He does better when he's wearing a life vest, and I think I had to lend someone else his life vest. But there's lots of benefits of teaching your dog to swim, but there's also lots of benefits of swimming. So for young puppies, it's just great socialization and exposure to something that you might want to do later on. It's also low impact. It's something that you could do typically, I mean, before they're out of the socialization, like before they're completely vaccinated. You just have to be kind of careful, at least giving them those experience. It's a good, fun way to get them mentally stimulated. For adolescence dogs, I think Corey, you already mentioned it, just being able to provide an exercise outlet for an adolescent dog can be challenging,
Yes.
especially in the heat,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So swimming, anything around water, hose, kiddie pools, these are great ways to exercise your dog physically and mentally, especially in the heat wave like you guys are facing right now. And then seniors. So senior dogs like Bentley loves to swim. In fact, I took him swimming last Friday and, going into the ocean out and back and just tossing the ball. But look at the amount of exercise, and he does find joy in doing this, that he could do this, for 45 minutes. And that's a great, great workout.
Oh yeah. Yes.
It's good for dogs with arthritis, good for dogs that are, overweight. It's a great workout, just like it is for humans.
And water
Yeah,
therapy for like rehabilitation is getting more popular for dogs. I mean, I personally have had to do that myself, but I know that there are some vets in my area that have tanks that you can go and do water therapy for those seniors or dogs recovering from surgery, stuff like that.
Good point. Very good point. All right, so let's go into the risks and hazards.
All right. So obviously, Yo has already told us one story that was, very sad, but it's very true. It does happen. There are a lot of risks and hazards associated with being near the water, not just being in the water, but other hazards as well. The biggest thing, and we've already touched on it when we're talking about dogs that are bred to be swimmers, is that you really shouldn't assume that your dog can swim. We teach our children to swim, so it should just be as common a thought to say we need to get the kids swim lessons. We need to teach the dog how to swim too. Being conscious of the water quality. This is another one that's important. Especially if you're in open water, other animals that might be in that water. In my area, we are at risk of different algal blooms that can affect your health going into the water and things like that. Using ramps, ledges, stairs to help easily exit the pool. As you can see in the videos, they also have towels down to help provide some more traction for the dogs getting out of the water. Fencing off, covering the pool, making sure that dogs can't have access, especially if you can't be out there to supervise 100% of the time. When we're talking about the environment that the water is in, that it also includes the air temperature. It is very hot someday. It is very hot here right now. We might be getting into the pool and cooling off and feeling okay, but if our dog isn't necessarily comfortable getting in and taking that cooling break, they might like to be near the water, but not necessarily in. That risk of heat exhaustion is high. So being aware of that, the heat, and staying hydrated. Always supervising in and around water. Again, don't assume your dog can swim, and especially never force your dog or push your dog into the water. And that is, one way for them to learn to really not enjoy the water. And you can really backtrack there. And starting off with a negative experience is not the right way to get them to enjoy it, for sure.
Good points. And I love that you, talk about fencing off if you've got a pool, even if it's covered. If you can't supervise and you've got your dog going in the backyard. I mean, I see this all the time. I go into a backyard and there's this pool. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do about this? Because you got a dog
Right.
going in and out to go to the bathroom. All right, some more fun facts.
Well, it's estimated that about 5,000 pets drown in swimming pools each year. We can't really know exactly how many because there are a lot of incidents that just go unreported. It's not the same as like a human drowning incident. But being underwater for 45 seconds is all that it will take for your dog to need medical care. In 2 minutes or less, your brain damage can occur, organ failure, and of course, even death. And dogs can drown in as little as 4 inches of water. So even that kiddie pool that you might have out in that backyard still need to supervise with.
Wow.
There are factors, of course, that increase the dog's risk of drowning. The age is, of course, the factor. Younger dogs may not have learned yet how to swim, but your older dogs may have a diminished capacity, the physical ability to swim. Health status of your dog, regardless of age. If your dog has limited vision, might not be able, especially if you have like an in-ground pool that is covered, maybe it's even uncovered, maybe it's later at night. It can be very difficult for them to distinguish what is solid ground and what is water. So falling in with that limited vision. And then just other kinds of disorders like seizures, physical impairments that, again, diminish their capacity for swimming. Breeds and genetics play a role. Those brachycephalic dogs, okay, are smushy face dogs, and our barrel chested dogs, pugs, boxers, bulldogs, shih tzus. They're at an increased risk because their snouts are shorter. Water is much more easily to get into the nasal passage and then again into the lungs. Your heavier breeds, your stockier built dogs, basset hounds, bulldogs, even dachshunds, they're heavier. If it's going to sink like rock, things like rock. And then dogs, you might not have thought of this one, but dogs with docked tails or no tails, it means that their hind end can sink a lot easier. I mean, think about when a lab or another water dog type, their tail is sinking straight out behind them, and they're using it to help them.
Yeah.
So if you've got a dog that doesn't have a tail, maybe naturally, or it's been docked, it increases that risk.
Those are some good fun facts. I didn't know that last one. That's a good one. Makes total sense.
I know, right? I mean, you don't think about it necessarily at first, but
no,
I agree. It makes sense.
Now I'm going to watch when my dog's, he has a great tail. I'm going to watch how much he actually is using his tail. I bet he's actually using it to steer direction.
Probably.
All right, learning to swim. So we're going to go really quick. One of the ways to understanding whether you're going to, first of all, picking the type of water, make sure that the dog is comfortable with the sight, sound, smell, and the feel of the water. Make sure they're okay with looking at the water. Make sure they're good with putting their paws in the water. What we see here is an example of what we did in Lake Tahoe. We use bowls. We place treats in the bowls. We also make sure the dog's comfortable with us touching the life vest in case. So these dogs were all prepping to go kayaking. So these are all the beginning stages. If you did our kayaking workshop this last weekend, it was one of the stages that we did. I think it was like the third or fourth thing that we did once the dog was comfortable with the kayaks, is making sure the dogs don't freak out when they touch the water, because sometimes they do fall in on a kayak or on a paddleboard. So we're seeing can you look at the water? Can you eat food with your paws in the water? If you really want your dog to learn to swim in the ocean, this is one of the ways that we help get the dog comfortable going all the way in. Treat placement is key here. So go slow, go through your steps, and make sure it's a positive experience. And don't spend a lot of time doing this. Do a short session, let them take a break. Small, short sessions is better than having one long, dragged out time there. All right, so swimming in a pool, swimming in open water, you can see that they're both swimming, both the same dog, but there is a lot of difference in what the water does and where the dog's going to go. So in the pool, the dog, is kept in the backyard. It's fenced in. I can pretty much, this thing rendering again. Let's see. The backyard, I feel safe. I'm like, okay, if he gets away from me, I can go get him at any time. But in the open water, let me just be honest, I kind of freak out. I'm like, okay, I hope he comes back to me, because at any time he could see something. I mean, I have had one friend who her dog loves dolphins and goes out and chases the dolphins here. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you got a dog that loves birds and
Anxiety.
sees a bird, he's like, oh, I'm just go swim out to the bird. So just be mindful of what body of water you're having your dog swim in.
Yeah, the water conditions are completely different from open water to a pool. So
Yeah, the surface, all of that stuff. Let's see. Positive exposure to a pool. So let's just go through it from scratch. Step one, as your dog is looking at the water, body of water, you're making sure they have a good positive experience. So we're using food here. We've got a cool bowl of water. We've got a towel that's right over by the step. This is the signal. This is where your dog will learn to go to when they see where that towel is. We call this step. So step one, just making sure your dog's comfortable being around the pool. That grass right there was all wetted down, and we're just having some positive experiences. From here, get into the pool and feed your dog from there or play with toys, right? So they're playing with toys. They're going after treats. They're having fun near the body of water. You can see here that the deck just got a little bit more wet. So I'm having her splash the deck right here. So the dog's paws, and whoops, the toy goes into the pool. So this is one of the first steps that we see. Does your dog go near the body of water? And you can see here, we can say check. So playing with toys, playing with treats. Now he's throwing the ball into the water himself because it's a fun game. So this is all at very beginning stages. Now, this family wanted this dog to actually love swimming. It's one of the first questions I ask. I said, do you want your dog to just not drown, or do you want your dog to love swimming? And it's really important to answer that question before you start. From here, he's getting a little wet right here. So he is getting, I think she's splashing him, and now she's having him feed with his front paws in the water. She is in the water, kind of motivating him to take that first step. Smiling, laughing. So now we're going into touching the water. We're reinforcing anything that he does, basically, and trying to feed him from the water, from her being in the water. And I'm not going to go through the full lesson because you're going to have to pay for a private for that. But one of the things we do is we first start off with that step and getting them comfortable with the step. And that step has a towel next to it, and the dogs learn to swim to that specific towel. All right, moving on to water sports. So if you talk to a pet parent and you're like, okay, what do you dream about one day when you first decided to get your dog? I have heard someone say, I would love to surf with my dog. And out here in Huntington Beach, we are one of the capitals of dogs that surf. In fact, they run a massive contest over here. And this is one of the dogs that competed, I don't know how many years ago, but dogs surf here. Second picture looks like paddleboarding, right?
Yeah.
And then the third one is the dock diving. Yeah. But there are other sports that have to do with water that we can go through. So just go through them really quick, Corey.
So we've talked about surfing and the paddleboarding and dock diving, but you can also water retrieval. Again, we've got those retrievers that like to get in that water, originally bred for game retrieval, but as a substitute for, a nice energy outlet, something that you can, a natural outlet, is tossing those toys in and having them retrieve. Bring it back. They love to do that. Kayaking and canoeing, a little different from the paddleboarding, but another one that's really popular, even in my area. We have a nice river for kayaking and canoeing.
And kayaking, or actually probably canoeing more than kayaking, is if your dog doesn't necessarily they don't have to love the water, because that's a really good sport that you could do with your dog that's on top of the water. But here's the thing, is that you have to be really good at kayaking.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not easy. It's not easy.
No. And the whole process of even paddling has to be exposed to your dog. And if you like paddleboarding versus kayaking. Paddleboarding is better for smaller or medium-sized dogs, just FYI, because if you've got a large dog and they want to adjust themselves, it really can throw off the paddleboard.
Yeah, I can't even imagine myself being capable of doing that. I feel like I'd go right over.
All right, we're going to wrap this up really close to the end. Here we go. So last Friday, we did a kayaking with your dog workshop. Here's a little bit of what you need to know. Again, these are the steps. We are going to have another one in July, but here is some of the video coverage. Not this one. This is Mr. Bandit when he was a baby.
So
10
tiny.
weeks old. 10 weeks old here. So positive exposure to the kayaking, putting on a life vest, getting on the kayak while it's on land, position training, and then in case of emergency, what to do. So those are all your steps. And here's what it looks like in last week's workshop. So getting to the environment, letting the dogs explore first, then putting on that life vest. Dogs were used, we asked them to get a long leash on and let them have room to, explore the environment. From there, they all put on their life vest. After they had their life vest on, it was just to see what the dogs would do naturally. In the sight of kayaks and paddleboards, then it's having them touch it, smell it, see it. From there, getting on the kayak away from the water, gradually bringing them into the water. So then they're in position. Then the pet parent got in or on the paddleboard or on the kayak with them on land. And then the last step before this actually they went off was to have the dog on the paddleboard or kayak in the water without the pet parent on the prop. And once the dogs got through those steps, and this could take weeks, lots of repetitions. Some of these dogs did it all in one day. Once they're able to do all of that, then the pet parent and the dog can go. We also go over the emergency, like what to do in case the dog jumps in, holding on to the life vest, letting them swim in if you've got a big dog. So I had 3 dogs with me on my board, on my kayak, and 2 of them jumped in because they wanted to go swimming. And I let them swim right next to the boat, and then I brought them in. So this is cute, huh?
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. But it also, you're talking about all those different steps, and it can be a lot if you do this for the very first time with your dog, first time ever. I'm assuming some of these dogs have done some of this, a little bit of this before, some of the steps. But with all of those steps, it's a good idea to get help from somebody who's done it a time or two, knows a thing or two.
Yeah, we actually had the paddleboard at the facility for the last 2 weeks. So the dogs had gotten up on a paddleboard well before we got it into the water. Yeah. They've all had been exposed to the water. They've all had been exposed to harnesses, which is like a different version of a life vest, and then the long leash. So some of these dogs were like, yep, we got this. You can put it together really quickly. And some of there's me with the 3 dogs on there.
It's a party.
Wow. There's Liz Dakota. There's our dog Blue, little puppy. Look at that. So cute.
That shepherd, those shepherd ears.
It is amazing though. Once you get on the water, if this is really what you dream about doing, it is a great experience with a dog that's, that loves it,
Yeah, looks amazing.
So the next in-person workshop is mid-July. So that's going to be our workshop again. We'll do an introduction, and then if the dogs have been on it before, we'll go ahead and do the tour of the harbor where we actually do a little ride, little loop. The whole workshop's about 90 minutes. So we'll go through those beginning stages that you see here in a good half hour, and then we'll get right onto the water. If you want to actually teach your dog to swim or just water safety because you've got a pool, then I recommend booking a private lesson with us. This is something that we can do in your home. We do have a couple pools that we have rented in the past to help get pet parents the repetitions with their dogs. So to book a call with us, that is the telephone number. It is our work cell phone number. So often it'll go right to voicemail. because I'm usually working. My phone's right here. So just text or leave a message and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you are on Instagram, Facebook, and obviously YouTube, go ahead and subscribe or take a look at those links. All right, so let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. There we go. Well, that was good. We finished up right around an hour.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. So definitely a lot of things to think about. If you're getting a you're getting a puppy for the first time and you want that life that we're talking about, that, the kayaking, the swimming, that's part of your lifestyle. It's definitely very important to think about all of those micro steps and getting prepared.
I think that was my biggest takeaway too. Is that, and not all dogs know how to swim. So that's
don't assume anything. Don't assume anything.
So guys, if you really want a life where your dog can enjoy these kind of experiences with you, the biggest things is to go slow, create a positive experience all the way through. Ask for support or help. This is something that we absolutely love to do every single year. So if we can help you make your dream come true with giving these experiences to your dog, let us know how we can help. But Corey, thank you from Toledo, Ohio, and get in that pool that you guys just created in your backyard.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your warm day. I can't wait to see pictures and videos of you and your dog out in the water, some way, one way, on a boat, at the pool, at the beach. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you. See you soon.